Hi there, this is Dave Schalow here. I just want to do a quick session on the issue of task orientation versus a people or relationship orientation. In most of the literature, you're tending to see, certainly in the last couple of probably decade or so, the total emphasis is on people orientation and relationships being the big trendy thing. What sometimes gets left off is that the task issue is really important. And so I just wanted to have a little session here to offset some of the kind of standard relationship discussion. The key to success, according to Dale Carnegie, remember in his classic book, many of you have probably read it, How to Win Friends, Influence People. Everybody has probably seen this statistic. 15% of your ability or success in life comes from technical skills, 85% from people skills. This was sort of the foundation of the modern success movement. Now, one thing to sort of keep in mind, now he had no statistics on this at the time. He just kind of pulled those numbers out of the air. And he's selling a book on people skills. And I think sometimes we miss that there's a little bit of a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy there in that he's trying to push the people skills. But I just wanted to point out there is a but. Here is the rest of the story. All the names you see there, Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, Bezos, Donald Trump, Hillary, got to be bipartisan in the thing. All of those people and countless championship football coaches have several things in common. One, they're all vastly successful in any kind of material sense, and any way you measure it, they're hugely successful people. They also have one other thing in common. They're not the nicest people. If you've read biographies of all these people, they have the people skills of a brick. Very few of them would be considered people-oriented, relationship-oriented. How did they get to be so successful when Dale Carnegie says 85% is people skills? These folks don't have any people skills. They don't pretend to have people skills. So how did they do that? And I tend to be able to explain that pretty simply. They get stuff done. They dream big, and then they go out and do it. They are notorious, if you read their books, about goal setting and completion and getting the goals done. They are relentless, driven to accomplish tasks. Important to remember that. Now, I'm not saying that people are not important. People are important, but so is getting the job done. And too often, I think we are starting to miss that. That although, yes, people are important, we got to get the job done. Otherwise, I'm going to feel really bad. I've been in positions where I had to hire and fire. Even if you're a nice person, I'm going to feel really bad when I fire you. And that's what I'm going to do. It sounds harsh, but that's going to happen to you. I guarantee it. If you are hired to do a job and you're the nicest person in the world, but you don't get that job done, I'm going to fire you. And actually, I'm not even going to feel that bad about it. Probably I should be on that list too. Let's look at the extremes. Let's say you have somebody who is all people orientation, all relationship orientation, and no task orientation. So again, most people have a combination, but let's put it at the extreme. All people, no task, what's going to happen? You're fired. Let's go the other way. You are all task orientation, you're focused, you don't care if you run people over and leave them in your dust. All task, no people skills whatsoever, you're getting promoted. Sorry, you're probably going to be chairman of the board someday. You're going to be on that previous slide with all those other superstars. Now, I'll give you some anecdotal evidence. In my career, early in my career, I was in insurance sales and then I was a sales manager. I used to have to hire and fire people all the time. In fact, my best salesperson, who probably did 80% of the entire business of my agency, I did not like him. No one liked him. He had no people skills whatsoever until you put him in front of customers. He was awesome. He was just charming, polite, pleasant, people skills all over the place to sell stuff. Then he'd get back in the car with me. I'd go on sales call with him, and I would marvel at how good he was in front of people. He'd get back in the car, and he was rude and abusive, and he was nasty to the other salespeople. He was nasty in sales meetings. He was nasty to my staff, the secretaries, treated everybody like dirt. Now, would I fire him? I didn't like him. No possible way in the world I was going to fire that man. He was the best salesperson I had. Frankly, if I had fired him, I would have got fired. My bosses would have fired him or would have fired me for firing him. No question about it. And of all the people I hired and fired, I never fired someone, ever, for personality reasons and people skills. You lived with it if they could produce. On the other hand, everybody I fired, it was because they weren't selling enough insurance. And the company I was with required that if they didn't sell a certain amount to hit their quotas, I had to fire them, even though I liked them. That was 100% of the time. Okay, then eventually I became a university professor. Over the years, I've been on countless personnel decisions. I've been the manager of the department, the chair of the department. I've been on committees that dealt with personnel issues, tenure, promotion type things. We had lots of people who were nice people. I liked them. However, they either couldn't teach, they were lousy in a classroom, that's the performance task job, or they didn't do any research, which for a college professor you're required. And we ended up basically, if we didn't have to fire them, we just didn't renew them, we didn't give them tenure. So nice people couldn't do the job or didn't do it well enough, and no continued employment, no tenure. On the other hand, again, I've been doing this for a college professor thing for over 30 years. I have dealt with lots and lots of unpleasant professors, unpleasant people. Some couldn't teach a lick. They were horrible. Students hated them. Other faculty hated them. But did you ever wonder why did we give them great tenure and make them a full professor? Students used to wonder about this sort of thing. Why do you keep so-and-so? They're terrible. They're great at research. They're great at that. Probably the most significant thing for a college professor is the task of research. And if they're good at that, they can be lousy at everything else. And yet they're going to get promoted and tenure. Finally, I'm on multiple investment boards. I'm on 3 different investment boards, and I get involved in hiring and personnel issues. Not pretty much at the low end, but at the higher end where we're talking people making $200,000 plus per year. In the investment world, the CIO, the Chief Investment Officer for one of the boards I'm on, says what he's looking for in his key employees is a fighter pilot mentality. That the people who are going to make it and are going to get promoted and make the most money are people who either want to win, accomplish the task, or they're going to die. There is no second place. There's obviously no third, fourth, fifth place. They are going to win no matter what. In all the time I've spent in the private sector on these boards, I can only think of one exception where the board or the management came to the board and said, we're firing this one person. And this one actually happened relatively recently. We're going to fire this person. Nobody likes her. And we were shocked. What? We're talking major issue here. No one liked her, but we still probably would have kept her and would not have approved them firing her. Except for one thing. She offended the boss. Keep that in mind. Don't offend the boss. You can offend this lower end. This sounds terrible, I know. But you can offend that, she offended the boss. And that was her death sentence for the job. But that's the only exception I can think of where somebody got fired for lack of people skills. So that says a lot, I think. Now, again, I don't want to imply that all you need are tasks. Both people skills and tasks are important. People skills help for getting the task done. No question about it. I encourage you to develop all the people skills possible. On some level, then, the Carnegie thing is right. People skills are hugely important. I just question his percentage. And if you had a choice, if the time ever comes, you have to choose people versus task, I'm telling you, I would suggest you get the task done, even at the expense of the people. Again, sounds harsh, I know, but that would be my best advice.